Well, good afternoon and good evening, everybody. It's nice to see. Oh, look at that. 86 participants so far. That's fabulous. I know a lot of you are out in the East Coast time and wherever you are in part of the world, but I'm going to have a fun time today. I'm going to open up with a song first to kind of get things started. And, um, and then I'll kind of tell you what we're going to be doing throughout, what I'll be doing and teaching throughout this session here for you. But, there's a lot of craziness going on in the world. Wouldn't you agree? Yes,
Definitely.
absolutely. And
Amen.
sometimes all these things can get us all worked up. So I thought it'd be fitting to open up with a song. I normally don't play this song. I think I've played it 3 times in concert in my history of Fletcher Music Centers. So I'll use music. So I thought it'd be fun to just say, kick back, relax, especially those in an East Coast time. It's probably just past dinner. You're winding down and maybe having a glass of wine and taking it easy, right? So I thought I'd open up with Take It Easy. So kick back, relax, and take it easy, everybody. Yeah, that was Sean's idea to say that joke. But anyway, I thought it was very clever. So I stole it from Sean. Here we go. Music included. Here we go. Oh, wrong button. You ever push the wrong button? Nope. None of you do. Here we go. Oh, well, thank you. Please stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Hold the applause. Hold the applause. Well, welcome, everyone. I hope that was a good way to open up the show. Excuse me for 1 minute. I'm going to grab a chair for someone. You're welcome. I had some visitors stop by in the store. I always say if I'm doing this locally and they need to come into the store, they can just pop right in and pull up a chair. So today's class, music, workshop, whatever you like to call it, I thought of several ways to do this, and I've had a lot of my staff members, they said they've been encouraging a lot of their students to come Some said they've had students that have had, they haven't been around in a while and taught some classes. I've had some staff members that said that there's some students that have not been on at all in these workshops. They're a little newer to the hobby. So I'm going to try to mix it up and share. I'm going to hit some what I call greatest hits features to discuss. And maybe today I'll show it to you hopefully in a different way. Now I have two models present, so I'm going to be bounced around a little bit. The angle, this is the best angle that I can provide. And we'll see what we go from there. Now I opened up, by the way, before I forget, I'm going to try to tell you everything that I do today as well. So for those of you who have that style, that's called Take It Easy. At the end of the music, by the way, it actually tells you to press the ending at a certain spot, and if you do it, it picks up from where you're playing in the music, and that's why that sounded like that. And then I also used another feature in there that I'll mention again a little bit later, but I did use the Fake It feature, which in this case did that guitar solo just like the Eagles did it when they wrote that song. But I opened up with a wonderful style. Now, show of hands, anybody out there in virtual land have a Lowry Prestige? Or going to have one real soon? Raise your hand. I see you. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it, Lord. There it is. There's a student that's in transition that's getting a Prestige soon. Some of you have a Sterling, Royale, Stardust, Performer, Palladium, Inspire, Grand Marquee, Aria, Liberty. I'm naming a bunch of organs. I'm sure I'm leaving some out. So all of those models have a lot in common, and even though some of them have things that the others don't. So I'm going to try to incorporate as much to a variety of the instruments, all right? But one thing is for certain on all of those models that I mentioned and the ones that I didn't mention, it's still included. Imperial is in there. I forgot about that. Legend, et cetera, et cetera. And even models that aren't represented today. Smaller organs like the Easy series. Remember those? One of the things that most people, and I can probably safely say 99.1276% chance you got involved in the hobby because some personal assistant salesperson played a small model and they pressed one note with one finger and they said, watch how easy this is. You could do this with one or two fingers. Is that the case for a lot of you in the beginner's model? And some of you might have said, wow, I can do all of that with one finger. Well, it's not just the one finger, but it's the fact that a rhythm style came on and you sounded like this complete full band orchestra. I also know that most of you use rhythm styles. So let's talk a little bit about rhythm styles. It all starts there. Now, some of the models, there's many ways of finding rhythm styles. Way number one is probably the way that I don't like to do it, but most people probably do, and they don't like to do it either, and that is open up the owner's manual. And virtually every owner's manual has a table of contents of rhythm styles. Now, from my experience, now I'm not 100% of this, most people, most owner's manual, should I say, has the rhythm styles in the back of the book. That's pretty common in most owner's manuals. Would you agree? Sean, could you confirm that?
Can I confirm what?
That most rhythm style charts are listed in the back of the owner's manuals?
Oh yeah, you betcha, they all are.
Okay, so that's what I've noticed. So if you want a good screenshot of what rhythms you have in the organ, open up your owner's manual, go towards the back, and somewhere in the last 5 or 7 pages, and it looks like she's doing something there to prove me right, Janice, and there she is showing it to prove that I am a man of my word. All right. Someone else is lifting up their chart here. Let's see here. Oops, wrong one. Let's see. Who is it? It just showed. Where did she go? Oh, there she is. Let me go back over here. All right. So she also has a chart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way. The beauty of that is all of the models that are represented in today's workshop, the rhythm style panels are always to the left, right? Correct, should I say? I shouldn't say right. It's on the left side of the panel if you're sitting at the instrument. Every model, even the smallest one, all of the rhythm styles. For many years, they used to call them rhythm and blues. It would be an easy way to remember. And each category represents a lot of rhythm styles. Okay, but if you have the rhythm chart, what it does is it gives you the category, and then it gives you all of the variations under that group. Okay, now there are multiple ways of doing this. Owner's manual, or you can simply push the button. All right, and then a lot of the models, when you push it, the first name of the style comes up. Now, as the models progress over the years, they added variation buttons. Now, based on looking on who's on the class today, and I know a lot of you have been on class for many, many, many times. I know you all know this, but there's a few of you who may not know this. So if your model has a variation 1 and 2 button, push the two together, and then on the screen, the other variations will show up. Now I'm gonna say this about some of the models. Anything I'm teaching, by the way, if you're not sure about it on your instrument, to jot it down, call a personal assistant. On the Prestige, that's when they started putting less steps in the process, but they put one variation. So when I push it, all of the variations will show up on the screen. And then if you get into the Sterlings, Patriots, Symphonies, those models on up, when you push a rhythm style, the minute you select a rhythm style category, it automatically pulls up all of the rhythms in that group. Okay? Now I don't know if you could see it from there, but some of you said you have a Prestige, or you have a Stardust even, or Royale, Sterling, or actually missed up there, the Imperial. Those models, do you know how many buttons are listed here, categories? Does anybody know? You can unmute yourself and shout it.
24.
Yeah. What's that?
24.
24 is the answer. Okay? Now, when you got into the Sterling and Patriot on up, what they did is they condensed those, and so they put 12 buttons, but there's still 24 categories. And how that works is when you select the category, what happens is a page of styles comes up, and so in this case here, there's country. Well, in some of the models, there's country 1 and 2. So if I go push the country button, it says country 1 at the top here, and if I put the next page, it gives me another page. Okay? This is just really clarifying, especially for those who are a little newer to some of these models. So and here there aren't 24 buttons, but each one has 2 groups. Okay? Now, when you got into the Sterling, that's when they introduced pianists and guitarists category, and there was a separate button for that. And when the Liberty came out, they added more to that category, so they put a button called More. And when you push More, what happened is that one button represented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. So it was just a clever way of not having to add 5 buttons or more buttons. Okay, on the E series, okay, E, Y, EX touchscreen models, you have a mix button here, and it gives you either 3 pages, 4 pages, up to 6, even maybe 7 or 8 pages. Each page represents about 11 styles. So those are just some of the ways to get the rhythm styles. All right. Here's another clever way that came out. This is one of those, write it down, get with your personal assistant, and you ask, is this on my model? Okay? So at some point, some of the models, and I think even one before this might have had it, they put a feature on here to where you can actually, when I turn on the instrument, and I don't know if you can't see it from there, but when you turn on the model on the organ, in the middle of the screen there's a button that says Style List. And that's a clever button because when you press it, okay, it'll give you every rhythm style that's in that organ alphabetically. So if you ever hear us in class and you hear someone say, try the Frank and the Count, or try the Latin Big Band, or something like that. Or sometimes they'll give you a rhythm style like try Smoky Strings. Well, that's not in the place that most people would think, and so you'd have to go to the manual, open up the book, search around, or you just go up, you just hit your stylus button and you scroll through. So if I want to find one I'm going to play today at some point is Jumpin' Jazz. If I don't know where that's at, I just scroll to the J's and there's Jumpin' Jazz. And when you select it, it'll set it up on that on the instrument there in the panel. Okay, so same thing over here. I'm just going to hit what I do is I hit all styles, and I want to find Jumpin' Jazz, because Jumpin' Jazz is in 2 different places on these models. And over here it says it's under the standards category. Okay? So that's become a very usable way of finding rhythm styles. When someone says use this rhythm, you write it down and you have a hard time finding it. If you have the style list button, just touch it, scroll. It tells you every rhythm you have alphabetically. Now, side note, there have been some models like the Prestige Plus and Symphony that were introduced where Bill Curry put all these extra rhythm styles in there that normally didn't exist in those models. And the long story short is, because of the way the titling of the style, he had to put a B sharp in front of those. So keep that in mind. All right? That's a great question for your personal assistant. So, for example, Downtown Rock is on the Symphony. Well, most people, they do the alphabet scroll on the Symphony, and they look for it, and they say, I can't find Downtown Rock. It's not there. I went to the D's. Well, it was a new style, so you'd go to the B sharp first, then downtown. So just know if you have the Prestige Plus or the Symphony, some of those additional styles are labeled B sharp and then followed by the name. They're all in the B sharp group, okay? Here's another clever little way of finding styles. Someone name a rhythm style. Any rhythm that you know that's on your instrument.
Jug band.
Jug band?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I know jug band. Actually, I don't know where it's at. I want to say it's under the country button, but I could be wrong. So what I don't want to do is start pushing country, scrolling through the variations, hitting all of the variations and searching for it. I could use the stylus feature, or a lot of you have this keypad here. When you touch it, the numbers come up, 1 through 9 or 0, okay? There's an additional option here called alphabet. If you touch alphabet, those letters, the numbers turn into alphabets, okay? And I'm going to hit the button that has the J on it, and when the J shows up, then I just touch style list. Oops, J, style list, and it brings me right to the list of styles in the J's. So I have Jazz Shuffle, Jazz Club, Jazz Waltz, and all I have to do is scroll up 1 or 2. There it is, Jug Band, and it tells me it's into the Country 2 category under the variations. And then all you have to do is play it. There we go. Now, on that note, some styles, if you hold the fill-in down long enough, you'll find some interesting things happening in there. Like that one had all these really funny sound effects. Now, not every style does it like that, where you want to hold it that long, but it's worth holding down the fill-in. I've taught that in the class as well. So the alphabet keypad is another way. Now, and as the years progressed, Lowry made it easier and easier. Now, I know that some of you raised your hand. You have maybe a Inspire or Rialto or Marquee, Grand Marquee, and Aria. So for those of you that have that, you have another way of finding styles, and there's a button to the left over here labeled Favorites. And I just think this is one of those clever little things that is really nice. When you select Favorites, you have the option of putting 8 or 10 of your favorite styles in the organ, okay? And I tried this once. And every time I ask somebody, name your favorite style, and they'll name one, and I said, give me another. And they'll get to, and part way through, they get up to about the 4th one, and they stop there. Because you like them all. But there's always like 3 or 4 that we use a lot. And I'm kind of the same way. The easy way to assign that, you just touch the screen. Now, right now they're blank. I'm going to put it to the factory. So by the way, if you have this and you want to reset it, you just touch reset, and you have an option to just reset your favorites, not the whole entire organ, in case you have presets saved in the organ. Okay? So let me push favorite back on, and it gave me 10 favorites. Now, these happen to be the styles that are some of the new Grand Marquee styles, but if there's one of them I don't think I'm going to use a lot, like the light March polka, I don't use that one a lot. All you have to do is touch and scroll to the style that you want. So maybe I want light saber or something like that. And then it stays there. If you turn it off, reset the organ by pushing it this way, it will not get rid of it. A total reset or reset the favorites will take care of that. So that's another way. And finally, and the reason why I'm spending this much time is we spend a lot of time playing our music using rhythm styles. And I often find students not realizing some of the fabulous styles that you have in the organ. People don't realize it because we get kind of stuck in a group of styles that we think we like. And there's a couple ways I'm going to give you some ideas on that coming up in a bit. The last and final way, for those of you who have the Style Suites button, if you push the Style Suites button, you get a group of styles, categories. It says movies and plays, vocals, big band era, world, and if I go to the next page, it says 50s and 60s. So if I touch that, it'll give me all the styles in the 50s and 60s. There's the All Styles button, too, alphabetically. In this case here, it gives me a Marquee and a Grand Marquee button, so it does list just all of the new Grand Marquee styles in Marquee. So that is just a quick snapshot on finding styles. You can do it the old-fashioned way, the book. You have the pushing on the organ. You have the stylus button. You have the alphabet keypad. You could search for a style. You have a favorites. You have a Style Suites. And for you Grand Marquee and Aria owners, you have one extra button here called Classic Styles. And the beauty of that is it gives me the same panel that this has. And the reason why they put that there is most people had, I know some of you might have upgraded your organ once or twice, maybe over the years. I've had some people say, oh no, I've done it 3 or 4 times or 5 times, or so I can see the heads nodding over there.
Leave me alone.
I see someone back there eating ramen noodles because they can't afford anything else anymore. They've been buying 20 organs for the last 20 years. No. But what happened since 1990, believe it or not, the panel, this panel has been labeled almost the same since even the late 80s. The Genius series, the NT series, LX series, SU series, A series, all of those models have been relatively the same panel. So a lot of people got used to where those things were. So what Lowry did on these 2 models, for those of you who have it, is they put a classic style. All it is the button panel on those models. So when you touch one of the styles, it'll show you where it's at in here now, okay? Now, what good is a rhythm style if you put it on and it doesn't sound good, right? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just enough to share a few examples. And that is, let's talk about what you probably already use, but maybe I'll give you a little bit of a different idea that how you can use it a little bit differently, explore it differently. So on the A series and SU series, you all have a button called Rhythm Preset. Okay? That is an extremely important button because when you select a rhythm style, if I'm putting on rock, all right, as an example, you could choose to set up the organ manually, or let's get an idea from the organ, right? So if you have Rhythm Preset on, it'll set it up for you, and you all know that. And you have 0 plus 10, so you have 11 rhythm presets. Every SU model has this. Every A series model, every E, Y, EX. Okay, we'll get to the EY and the EX because it's there, it's just labeled differently. And it's pretty simple. When you use Rhythm Preset, you can go back and watch the recording. I'm going to say it very fast. You get a general setup for that style. 1 through 10 is like this: easy, a little more, organ, string or strumming instrument, bells and whistles, solo, vocal, piano or percussion, ensemble, and finale. All right? Go back and watch the video when I repost it on our Patreon channel and write that down. Or contact your PA. So what did he say? He said it so fast. What matters is this, is when you have Rhythm Preset on, you're getting 11 great setups for the upper and lower. And don't ignore the lower right here. Because when you're playing along, you may find some things that you like that you may use down here. So let's see what happens.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm just going to randomly pick numbers. Number 4. Six. 9. 12 applause. So I just randomly picked, and you guys know that part, but don't eliminate the lower keyboard. Now, on the E series, now on here, there's 2 rhythm presets. So if you have one that says normal, that's what that is. If you do not have a normal and it just says rhythm preset, make a note that's considered normal rhythm preset, okay? On the E series, they retitled it Style Setups, all right? Normal style setup is new, so they're new setups, okay? So if I put on, what was that, the twist that I just played? What was the name of the style? Let's see. Twistin'. All right, so I'm going to use my alphabet keypad here, style list, and go to Twistin'. And I'm going to do the same thing, but if I was to turn on normal style setup, I'm not going to get the same sounds that are in there. And that, of course, Larry wanted to put some new additional sounds, but you will get some additional sounds, and they're going to be great on the top and the bottom. Okay, so you get an additional 11 setups. Well, that's great, but we knew, well, I wouldn't say we, but I think Larry had a hunch that some people were going to be like, but wait a second. I like my rhythm preset number 3 when I use that style, and I don't have it anymore. Now, I know no one complains at Fletcher Music Centers. None of our students complain, right? She's saying no, no one complains.
No one complains.
Some of you have a guilty look. Just kidding. But Lowry knew, because those were so great, naturally, we told you they were, and progressively, as they added more rhythm presets to the styles, they're great. That's how we sell the organs. They didn't get rid of them. So because they switched and went to a new platform and labeling, they didn't want to get rid of them, but they did put them and they just called it differently. So some of you have a button that's called Vintage. So if you have Vintage, Vintage represents all of the rhythm presets that were there before from the A series. So that way, if anybody had an A series models before, and they were used to, like when I used Frank in the count, I used rhythm preset 0. I used number 1 and 2 because they have really cool jazz guitar sounds, and number 6 for some of the solo sounds. While in the style setup, it's new here and it's great, but it's not the ones I'm used to. But if I put on Vintage, I get those same sounds. Okay? And last but not least, some of you have, and this is on some of the SU models. I think it's one of the SU models, the A series models. Just again, if you're not sure, ask your PA. There is a button that some people avoid for one of 2 reasons. They may use it occasionally, and it's called organ rhythm preset or organ style setup. Why would they avoid it? Well, reason why I avoid it for sometimes is because when I'm playing, I'm not in the mood for an organ sound for whatever song I'm playing. Sometimes there's some songs I like to play where I like some of those great jazz organ sounds when I'm doing gospel or some of the Latin stuff with those real, and that's when I do use it. So it just depends. The other reason may be sometimes, for example, I know some people, they love the sound of the piano. They'd rather play piano all the time versus an organ sound. Or some people, I love the sound of a guitar. I use guitars a lot, but I don't use pianos a lot. Everybody has sounds that there's a preference. Some people, I'm just not a fan of the organ sound. I'm not a huge fan of the accordion sound, so I very rarely use it. But I do use it when I think it sees fit. But I don't use it a lot. And on the other hand, I know some people use accordion all the time because that's what they like. But here's a little known fact about the organ rhythm preset or organ style setup. If you use organ style setup rhythm preset, on the top keyboard, all 11 combinations will be a combination that has not just an organ sound, because it's not always an organ sound, but the use of the flute tabs with another sound. Now, sometimes it's just organ. They use it to make an organ sound. And sometimes it's a blend. It may be a strings with a flute tab on. So it just gives it a different sound. But the top keyboard is mostly flute organ based, but a lot of times it might be something else in there. So as an example, let's put on, I think I mentioned Latin Big Band earlier. Let me put on Latin Big Band. Let's see, Latin Big Band. Okay, so here's a great style that I love. Now here's what it normally sounds like with rhythm preset. Okay, so it's a great, you can hear Xavier Cugat in there, his band. I'm just playing along. And if you go through, you get all your usual, and those are great. But I'm going to switch to organ rhythm preset now. And I'm just going to play along, and you're going to get some organ sounds. Now in this case, it gave me an organ sound with some bells and some strings. Let's see what happens when I push this one. It's a choir, but with flute tabs on. So they're not always just organ. Now here's another little fact for you. Here's a little trick for you. Okay? Every organ rhythm preset that I've played quite a few of them, on the bottom right, the lower right keyboard, doesn't set up organ sounds. It set up sounds from your orchestral and solo. So if you like a lot of your orchestral and solo sounds, if you use organ rhythm preset or style setup, you get something else down here that's in addition to what you have. Here we go. Let's see. I'm just going to hit them any order. Now, I don't know if you noticed. Oh, wait, gotta let the crowd do their thing. I don't know if you noticed, but at the end, it didn't sound like a band orchestra. It had an organ background orchestra. On most of the models, make a note, another question to ask your PA. If you have organ rhythm preset 0, the background turns the musicians into an organ accompaniment. And the minute you go to 1 through 10, it turns it off and brings the band back. So when you heard that style, here's what it normally sounds like. Put on intro 2 here. Okay, here's number 1. Now what I'm gonna do is push organ rhythm preset 0, and I'll play those same 2 introductions. Listen. Here's number 1. And that does it for all of the styles. Now, that's not just on this model, by the way. There are a lot of models that have organ rhythm preset 0. That 0 will play an organ background and could be a totally different way of playing your songs. So that's definitely worth writing down. You know, organ is a common sound for an accompaniment sound. And when you're using like saxophones and things like that, you'd be surprised how well that works nicely with some of the music. Now, I said it turns it off when you push preset 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. If you like to use it for all your presets, use your accompaniment lock. Accompaniment lock, write that down. And accompaniment lock works on anything. So if you like the background, the way you have it set up, where you've changed it, adjusted the balance, put accompaniment lock, and then everything else. So if I turn on that same style, as soon as I push number 4 or 3, now listen to the band. Now it's a regular band. So what I'm going to do is put on my accompaniment lock. Let me go back to 0. So here's my band with the organ. Oh, that's pretty cool. I haven't used that one. Now I'm going to hit accompaniment lock. I'm going to go to number 5 or 6. Now watch. And it still stays there. So if you like that, you can lock it. That's the beauty of having an accompaniment lock as well. That should be written down. Actually, everything I talked about today should be written down. You're going to leave here with a wealth of knowledge. And if you communicate with each other, you can charge each other money. Say, what did he say in that class? Give me $5 and I'll tell you. I wrote it down. or you can go and watch it on our Patreon channel. Okay. How are we doing so far? Thumbs up? I see eyeballs. You're all still awake, so that's a good thing. All right. Now, before I go on to the next couple of things, I just have a couple other features I like to talk about. Is there any questions about anything I've done so far? I've done quite a bit. Do you have a question? She wrote it all down, but she doesn't remember. She's only been coming 20 years. No question is a bad question. Any questions before I go on?
Yeah, I've got one, Greg here.
Greg?
I wrote it down but forgot where I put it. No. It's,
So you're not alone. I do have two
Yeah.
students here. She did the
tell me, I'm on a marquee, and remind me where I've looked over it. I'm at the organ as we speak. Tell me where the accompaniment lock is. I'm not seeing it just off.
Okay, so that's a good question. All right, so let me answer that question for everybody. Okay, so on the SU series, on the left side of the panel, the locks are individually labeled. I'll get to the marquee in just a minute. So since I'm going to answer them, I'm going to answer for everybody. So on the SU series and the A series, over to...
I
okay,
see
hold
it.
on one
Good.
second. So, and when I say A series, not all of them, it says accompaniment, control, tempo, and harmony. Now, starting on the, I want to say the Sterling, maybe the Imperial, you may not have them all listed there. There might be a button that just says locks, okay? So on the Marquee, as an example, to the left, there's a button that says locks.
I see
When you
it.
press it, you know what? Every time I talk about this feature, I always have to look around and go, where the heck is that darn button again? Oh, there it is. So some of the organs have it. It's always going to be in the left side. So Patriot, Sterling, Symphony, Imperial, Liberty, they're not all in the same place either, okay? So if you don't see accompaniment lock, harmony lock, tempo lock, control lock, or something like that, if you see a button that just says lock, that means push it, and on the screen, the options will show up. Okay? So they're either listed on the dash, or one button pulls it all up on this. And then some of you have the transpose as well. Good question. Any others?
Yeah, so just one follow-up on that. I'm showing 3 little buttons above it. Little lights.
Above it?
Yes,
Yeah.
above.
Yeah, if you look closely on there, it says control, accompaniment, and transpose. So it just
Yes.
tells you what you have selected in the screen.
Okay,
So right now, my accompaniment lock is lit up underneath. There's a little light lit up underneath the word. It's kind of small. The word accompaniment is. If you kind of look underneath there, you see it. Do you see it there?
yes, I do.
Okay. So if I select transpose, then it'll light up too. So it's just kind of an indicator for you. So like if you're playing along, a lot of times what happens is, and Jerome does this too. Actually, Marco's done this to me. Jerome's done it to me. Well, what they did is they sat down and they used the lock feature, and then I go up to play next and they forget to tell me. So I load in my presets and they've got the tempo lock or and I go to play and I'm expecting it to be at 200 and they have it locked at 80 and I'm going, what's going on here? Because they had it locked. And so even though I use my presets, it doesn't, I had to remove the lock and then push it. So it's just kind of another way of knowing what's happening at the time. Good questions. Any other? No? Okay. A couple other features I'd like to mention today. One is a feature that some models have, actually all models have, but if used, I think it doesn't get used as much as it should. Okay? Some people do it because it comes on automatically, and it's called simply harmony. All right? Harmony is a great feature. When that feature first came out, it just took the organ market by surprise years ago. And what Lowry did is they've improved on it over the years. Now, every model that I've put in the email today that said you should show up, everyone has harmonies. All right? starting on the Rhapsody even, there's harmonies. Now, on the Rhapsody, there may not be 15 harmonies or 12. There might be 8, but, you know, the important ones. Now, Sean, you got, don't put it up yet. We'll get to it in just a minute, but have it ready. But harmonies is really important because there's some people out there that when they play, you know, they've gotten to the point where they can play one finger, okay? And then sometimes an extra finger, or they're learning 3 or 4 fingers. But here's the thing. When you're playing with a harmony, it is doing something that most people can't do no matter how good they are. Because like in AOC, as most people know, it's playing 3 notes for every one note that you're playing. Well, if you're playing a fast song, you know, something like, let's see. If I'm playing a faster song like old-fashioned 5'2", okay? Well, if I wanted to do that as AOC, here's the slow version of it, and I'm not going to do all of it because it's not that easy. I'm actually having to think it through. Now, try doing that fast. Okay, enough of that. So if I had AOC on, I just play my one note, and it's doing all of that with one finger. That's just AOC, playing 3 notes. Now imagine if you're using a 4-part harmony, and it's playing 4 notes with every one note, or 5-part, or an AOC octave, or whatever all the wonderful features. Now, once I post this video, it'll be up in a few days on our Patreon channel. I will put this page, this is actually attachment, it's 3, maybe 4 pages, that Sean's going to show you. This is really cool. This is just fun to have. He's getting ready to show you in 3, 2, 1. So here is an example. These are just examples that when you are using the harmonies on the organ, and this is just an example of a C chord as an example, all right? That's the notes that it's playing if you're playing a C chord in one note. Now notice the note that I would be playing in that example there would be the C. So if I played a C chord in the left hand and a C note, it's going to do those additional 2 notes, okay? And you see there's another example there. If I do a C7th with one finger, like if I play the E, it actually does the other 3 notes there. In that case, it does a 4-note chord. So these are just some examples of what it's doing for you, okay? Open, or 3-part, spreads the notes out for you. So every one of these harmonies that you use, this is showing you if you play that note on top, that's what's going to actually happen when you're playing it. You go to the next page, and there's some of the rest of the examples. Duet. Octave is really cool because I always had a trouble with octave. I can start doing it with my hand, and as I play more, my fingers, even though I think they're locked in place, they're somehow they don't, and I end up losing my spot. And then 4-part harmony, block harmony, polka, country, hymn, barbershop, etc. So this handout I will post on our Patreon site as well. So, and I won't make it just for Patreon members. So if you're not a Patreon member, I'm going to make this one public so anyone can get it. All right. Now, a couple other things about harmony. So I'll come over here. Lourdes, I'm going to do this for you. This is for Lourdes. Because if I don't do this, I'll never hear the end of it. Let me get the song first. So every model has harmony. That was represented today, and anybody who came today that has any of the, and actually it's on most models throughout the years. There's only a few models that it doesn't. That's the very small ones at some point. But let's see if I could do this without my fan blowing my music. Let's see what happens here. Okay, it's staying. I have a fan on in here, so some of the things get blown away. So what I'm going to do in this happens a lot. A lot of the rhythms on all of the models, harmony's not on 100% of the time. Okay, you'll notice that. You should notice that. Harmony's on not most of the time, but it comes on in a group of 11 presets. It may come on 5 or 6 times. Okay, and that's normal, and it should be. You don't want a harmony. A harmony is when you put it on, most of them are big sounds with one finger. Okay, so sometimes you don't have it on top, but it's on the bottom. Sometimes it's on both. And if you ever find that you're playing one and you like it, I would pause and just kind of look and see what harmony they're using. But this is a classic. This song here, Unforgettable. When I use it on this style or any of the models, it automatically, let me put on Unforgotten. All right. And I'm just going to play rhythm preset 0 on the top and the bottom. And on the top, it's going to give me just a good old simple AOC. And on the bottom, it gives me a block harmony. Okay. Now, the beauty of this is that the harmonies that are set in the organs, they naturally balance it. I know sometimes people they have a big harmony here and there's no harmony here and they can't hear the melody because the balance is based on the top keyboard. In this case now, you're not going to be able to see my hands too much from that angle. I'll do my best. All right. But as I'm playing, I'll start off just as it says it's set up. It's got a beautiful organ tone with it and an AOC. And then when I go to the bottom, notice the saxophone. What's really cool about this is it puts on the saxophone, but it has some strings in there, blend. That's just beautiful.
Thank you, Robert. That
Isn't that
was
beautiful? So the point of that is use the harmonies as much as possible to get used to which works great for others. And I can do a whole class on harmonies because there's all different sounds that work better with others. But they're there. If you have them, use them because they're doing things that you physically can't do no matter how good you are. Even some of the greatest artists purposely use harmonies because sometimes they're using 1 or 2 fingers and they'll throw on a harmony like AOC and it just adds to what they're doing. And that's how they sound so good, all right? Now, a couple other things here. First of all, intros and endings. Now, I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face, but I always like to just to touch base on it. Intro and endings, especially number 2 if you have it. But in intro endings, you have something magical there. And actually, it started on the SU series. When the Royale first came out, the very first S model, one of the big deals about the instrument was that naturally rhythm styles from before were put onto it. So you had, for example, the swing band. Okay, at that time, most people, they were using the swing band. Now you're all familiar with this style, right? Oh, I have organ rhythm preset on. That sounded pretty interesting like that, huh? All right, here's swing band. That's been around since the 90s. Now, I like that style, and I still do, but do I use it as much as I did 15 years ago? No, because I've heard that introduction so many times, all right? But what Lowry did when the SU series came out is they took, at the time, I want to say about 60% of the styles, and I don't know if that's an exact number, but a lot of them. And if you just simply did a minor chord, it became something totally different. So in this case, if you do the same thing, all right? So that's something that you can do for a lot. You just go through your rhythm styles and put on the minor chord. You may hear something totally different. Here's one that, let's see here. Let's go to our E, epic movie. This is a style that a lot of the organs have. It's just a fun style. You want to do Gone with the Wind, music like that. Grand. All right. Now, if I do the same one and do a minor chord, now watch. I don't know why I felt like doing that. Don't you want to do an Evo laugh when you're, I don't know why. I was going to play Exodus, but I don't know if that goes great with a Evo laugh, so it's very contradictory. But when I hear the, actually you could do it with Phantom of the Opera, or, I heard Marco. I actually use it sometimes. Or what some people do is but you can actually play a song like this with it as well. And you might find some other hidden gems in the instrument too. For example, when people hear this style here, let's see here. Let's see, I'm going to go to my style list. Oh, it's right in the L's here. So a lot of you know this style. When you hear this rhythm, most people go, oh, that's great for the song That's Life, right? Yeah, you can hear it. Frank Sinatra, or a lot of people would do, that's life, right? But if you do the minor chord, you get something a little bit different. But watch this. But if you go a step further and you go into your intro ones and twos, sometimes you get something totally left field that you wouldn't expect. Here's intro 2 with a minor chord. Anybody guess the theme? The first person who gets it right wins 5,000 virtual dollars. You can. use
Perry
it as-
Mason.
Perry Mason, you just won 5,000 virtual dollars. You can spend it anywhere you like that takes virtual money. The theme from Perry Mason. Now here's one. Now let's see. Now some of you may know this. I'm going to play the style that it becomes when you set it up this way. I want you to tell me if you know what style it's called. All right? Someone may guess it, although I think most of you are going to be stumped. All right? So let me find it here. And here we go. Turn that there. Turn that there. We'll put this there. All right, here we go. All right, anybody know the name of that style?
Happy Garden.
Peter Gunn.
Peter Gunn is the name of the song, and most people would think Peter Gunn, but someone actually got the answer right. The actual name of the rhythm that I use to play that is called Happy Organ. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like Happy Organ. Now, if you hear that same rhythm in its original format, here's Happy Organ with the same F chord. So that was the, I forget what the song that's for, but who knows the answer to that? Jerome, I think, knows that. But so point is a lot of times if you go through rhythm styles and you put on the intros, especially if you go to number 2, you'll find some hidden gems in there that you would not normally realize that's there. Okay? So I'm going to finish up with a couple of numbers here. We talked about rhythm styles. I'll use some of the features that I mentioned here today. I'm going to actually attempt to play a song that I just learned 2 minutes before this class. I don't know if I'll play it all the way through, but we'll see here. What I was trying to do is say, what can I play differently today? What would be a nice way to use a, and then Sean said, play that one. And I was like, I don't know. And so this is actually a song from Saturday Night Fever, the Bee Gees. How Deep Is Your Love? All right, so we'll see if I can pull this off here. I might do the short version. It's about 4 or 5 pages. But this is, again, exploring your rhythms. And so what happened is I was going through the rhythms, exploring them like I normally would, like I was telling you. And then I went, oh, what is this? And I went through it and I went, what is this style here? It said, how deep, question mark? I'm like, what does that mean? That's weird. And then I realized, oh, it's really pretty style, actually. Put on the intro here. And I got another feature I'm going to talk about in just a minute. pretty song. I remember when Saturday Night Fever came out, and all I was trying to do is learn to do that John Travolta, and I was in like second or third grade, and we had these little school parties, and I was bringing my little 45 or whatever you could bring, like your favorite song, I think it was, and I was bringing the Staying Alive one was, and I wanted to show off that I could dance. I know I'm not really that zany enough to do that, but as a kid, I was. All right. One other feature that I do want to mention that gets used a lot, if you have it, sometimes not enough, and sometimes maybe just don't understand how else you can use it. Now, some of the models you'll notice has this little thing called the virtuoso on top. All right. So here you have one, and here's two. But what I'm going to just use a style. I think I mentioned this earlier. Let me go to all styles. So if you have this feature, virtuoso, I'm going to use jumpin' jazz here. We'll just do something simple. Now normally it comes up with a harp sound, okay? And let's see. Let me just find the setup I want. I think I want something else. I'm going to put on, let's see, do we have brass on here? Let's see. Oh. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to use Jazz 0, by the way. It gives me a nice growl saxophone. And I'm going to use jumping jazz style, all right? But if I'm playing along, anything I play with this, I'm not particularly excited about a beautiful golden harp sound with a style like this. Or it works, but it's like just very too pretty for a song like that. When you hear that style, it's more like getting down and dirty, right? And then you go, oh, pretty harp sound. It doesn't fit. So a lot of the models have this option where if you activate the virtuoso button, a screen will pop up, okay? And on here, it says left and right, all right? Now, some of you have just the right one, so it'll just show up once, okay? But it's okay. The operation is the same. So it tells me source, golden harp. And if I touch it and I scroll, upper or lower right. And here's what that means. Whatever sound that's in this virtuoso, it's going to pull it from the source that it says. So if it says golden harp, whatever you have programmed in the golden harp, whether it's a harp or bells or whatever sound you want. You can program your golden harp with a trombone sound if you want. You program whatever sound you want. You can say that that's the sound that I want to go in there. So as an example, if I push golden harp and I'm going to touch, it says vibes. Now maybe I don't want vibes, and I'm going to scroll to a guitar sound. Now I don't know if this will work or not, but the point is I want you to hear that I'm changing it. So let's go to a simple guitar sound. I should have used my keypad here because scrolling, there's so many sounds, it's going to take me a while. I'm going to tell a joke. Okay, here we go. All right, so let's put on a jazz guitar in my golden harp. Now, I'm not going to use the golden harp sound for golden harp, but that's what I've programmed in there. Now, watch this. Okay? Or maybe I'll leave it over here. Okay? So that's where it's pulling from, the golden harp. Now, if I turn off the golden harp sound to a regular golden harp, it's this. Now, again, I programmed it as a jazz guitar, okay? So that's what's in there. The other option you have is now in the upper or lower right. So upper means whatever's in the upper keyboard at the time, And if I put lower right or whatever's in the lower right keyboard at the time. So if I have this sound and I put lower right, it's going to go in here. Okay, let me put it to upper. So now that's in there. So right now I'll leave it like that. It says upper and golden harp, but I changed the golden harp sound. I hope you're writing this down because you probably have a question. This is a great get with your PA and learn more about this feature. Okay, so as I'm playing, then I'm going to use my virtuoso, but I'm not going to do it like I normally do anymore because I don't have the golden harp sound. Okay, I have, and I have, all right. So as I'm playing, I'll just use whatever one I want at the time, wherever it feels like it's right. And the question is, when's the best place to use it? Wherever you feel like it, all right? So let me put on, I turned off my style, so hopefully, it should be okay. Let me go to my rhythm styles, keypad, J, jumping jazz, all right? And I'm going to use intro 2. Why, you ask? I just feel like it. I don't know why. I just felt like something to do because that's what I taught today. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, big round of applause. It's amazing what 2 people can sound like 100 people here. No, it's true. They look at me like I'm talking to myself. No, there we go. Wave to there we go. They're my biggest fans here. They applauded like it was 100 people here today. Well, I have to tell you, first of all, I want to say thank you for coming and hoping you enjoyed today. And did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy the workshop?
Yes.
The last thing I want to mention again, in several days, 4 to 7 days, give or take, this class will be posted on our Patreon channel. I will have the handouts on there from today. And if you're not sure how to get to our Patreon channel, I'll tell you a couple of ways. It's patreon.com/Fletcher Music Centers. Okay, that's patreon.com/Fletcher Music Centers. Or if you go to our website at FletcherMusic.com, let's see if I can get to the website here. Let me go to the website, FletcherMusic.com. And if you go to our website, you'll notice at the very top here, see this little P? It looks like a P. If you click on that, it'll bring you directly to our Patreon page. You just click on there, and it brings you to our page. Every class we teach goes on this page. Okay? So if I want to manage posts, my page. Let's see, membership. I'm on my account here, manage page. Okay, let's see. View as Patriot. There we go. So if you go and you go here, it'll look like this. Okay, so I'm not logged in as a patron, but if I did, this would be unlocked. Okay, you can see all of the classes, everything we do is on here. Oh, look at that happy gal. Hope she doesn't ask for royalties, etc., etc. So it's on there. If you're not a subscribed member, there's a way that you can follow us as well. So every time we post something, you'll be notified. Okay? So anyway, it's a great opportunity because a lot of times people miss out or can't have the time to join us. Live is always best, but anyway. So again, I want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart of attending. I'm going to thank you in the future. Talk to us about the great opportunities. And as always, keep playing music, stay safe, and mwah. Bye. And a big round of applause for Mr. Robert Roman, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, yes. Oh, stop it.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Really enjoyed it.